Hey, what's up, players? Chicago and I back again. Been a little bit of time before since I last did a video, but I was on vacation, so I didn't do pretty much anything. So pretty awesome stuff. But yeah, I'm back, and we're going to do some more stuff here for Intel Bytez series, and this is going to be focusing on some different things like Tor, and using this in your cyber threat intel for searching for companies you may work for, things of that nature. If you're not familiar with the channel or with the actual Intel Bytez, it's essentially me going over different open source intelligence. I'll call it OSINT usually. Also some red team stuff possibly, and some privacy topics and some cyber threat intel, and just showing you some cool stuff in regards to that to help you guys in that particular career. Myself, that's what I do. I do cyber threat intel for a particular company, and I also do some open source intelligence, and I also monitor for that particular company on the dark web as far as like search terms that may be popping up related to the company, things of that nature, or maybe even some different ransomware groups, that sort of thing. So it's a good thing to have in your belt, in your tool belt, to be able to know how to navigate some of these things, for instance, like dark web, for a particular company. And if your company's not doing that currently, it may be wise to do that just to kind of get your ear to the ground to see, is anybody talking about your company in the dark web? Are they bantering around with some different leaks that they're selling that you didn't know about? Those sort of things. It's always a good idea. Now, when we talk about the dark web, again, I approach these videos as a singular unit, as in you probably never watched any of my other videos before, so I'm not going to assume that you know all the things I'm going to be talking about. So briefly, I'll talk about some of the things that I went into more depth on in other videos. So if you want to know a little bit more in depth about things like Tor and tails and anonymity, watch some of the other videos I have on my channel, and it will help you out on that. But I'm going to give you a short summary of kind of what we're getting at here. So when we talk about things like the dark web or darknet or what have you, you can kind of break the internet down into three different layers, essentially. You have the clear net, which is anything really that Google can index, or not just Google, any type of web crawler like BingBot or what have you. Those are ones that are easily publicly accessible. It's ones that people browse every day, right? I mean, normal users, not OSINT dorks like me, but normal people that search for things and go to Facebook and Twitter and what have you. They're basically using the clear net, and these are things that are indexed by these bots like Googlebot and such, so they're not really hidden or anything. That really kind of accounts, from some people's estimates, of about 4% of the actual internet as it were, and the remaining portion, which is the behemoth of it, would be considered deep web, and deep web can be different things. It's not to be confused with dark web or dark net. But deep web is more like, well, in simple terms, things that aren't indexed by Google. And it may be things that you have to connect to directly with an IP. Like if you have a application that connects specifically to a database online, and there's a specific URL that is using to connect to it, that would be considered deep web because it's not indexed by Google. Also, things behind paywalls typically would be considered deep web, that sort of thing. So it's pretty massive. It's most of the internet. But then you also have these subsections that would use a particular software called Tor. And Tor was made initially, I believe, by the United States Navy for anonymity purposes, I believe. Nowadays, there is a project called the Tor Project, which you can see right here, where they basically run these nodes or computers that people volunteer. So I could volunteer my computer to be used as a node within this Tor network if I would like. And essentially the idea is that it's for anonymity purposes, not necessarily security or privacy per se, even though it is considered mostly private. Typically you'll know that VPNs would be used for things like privacy and maybe even security, because it kind of encrypts things and it kind of masks where the IP is coming from. But VPNs are not really known for just anonymity, because the VPN providers know who you are because you've obviously paid them and you're connecting to their service. So it's not really anonymous by default. Whereas with Tor, it is anonymous because you're connecting to different nodes that other nodes don't know about that you've connected to. Now, I'll say that these nodes are publicly known, and there are some sites out there and ISPs that will block certain things from this known IP list of Tor nodes because they just think that everybody that uses Tor is a criminal. And that's just a stupid mindset, but that's what people believe because it does have a reputation with the darknet part of it as being the black market and those sort of things. But just people that use this, it could be just journalists, right? I mean, it's not evil people using this stuff, but that's what you'll notice more than likely is your ISP would probably say, well, I can see that you're using Tor because I notice the connections here are actual IPs that are within that Tor network, but I don't know what you're doing in there because I can't see your traffic because it's using the Tor nodes. That's the intent. Now, if you really want to kind of double up and make sure the ISP doesn't even see that you're using Tor, well, you would then start with a VPN, connect to a VPN first, then connect to the Tor network. Because when your computer from the Tor browser sends out a packet, it's going to go ahead and be seen going to an entry node, an initial computer, to be able to go into that Tor network. So ISPs and everybody else out there can see your computer is connected to a Tor entry node. Once it gets there, it doesn't know what you're doing because it's encrypted, multi-layer, hence the onion router name. But if you don't want people even seeing that, get a VPN and then VPN in first, then do your actual Tor connection. So these Tor nodes, they have a variety of different nodes. Let's just pretend there's 3 that we go to. So you get in and you send a request from a Tor browser, and it's important that you use the browser that they create for this, or curate, not create, because it essentially is Firefox, but it's pared down pretty decently for anonymity and privacy purposes. But you would send a request into this Tor network. It would go into an entry node. That entry node would then strip away the first layer of encryption and send it to another random node within that pool. The random node doesn't know where it's going, doesn't know where it came from. It just knows I have it, and I need to tear away the next layer of encryption, and then it will send it on to a last final node called an exit node. Now, for the privacy and conspiracy theory people, not necessarily a conspiracy, I probably misworded that because it is true. The governments do own those exit nodes and such, so I won't, that's probably bad wording, but the people that are in the know, let's just say that, will know that the exit nodes are typically, there's a lot of them that are owned by governments. There's some of them that will be run by people that want to view traffic going back and forth. And if you're not using HTTPS, for instance, it's not encrypting your traffic. So people can kind of parse out what information that you're trying to get to. And a lot of times the governments will try to look for patterns in the timing of the packet and where it's going to and the content, that sort of thing. So, excuse me. It's always a good idea to make sure you're always going HTTPS whenever you're trying to do it. But if you're trying to go to another site, what it will do is rip away that last layer of encryption, and that will now know the destination address that it needs to go to, and it will send the packet to there, and then it will reverse everything coming back. So that's kind of the idea behind Tor. But when it comes to the dark net, as it were, or these ones that get all the press, the news press about these things, inside Tor, they create something called hidden services. You can make a hidden service. Essentially, it's like if I wanted to make my own website to sell crack cocaine, whatever, then I make a hidden service. And if I have good OPSEC, nobody's going to be able to determine that's me. And it will have an address, and the actual top-level domain that will be attached to the end of it will be onion, .onion is the name they give it. So in other words, if I don't leave the exit node, what am I worried about government snooping on me, right? My traffic, because if I stay within the Tor network, then this is essentially where we form what's called a dark net or a dark web, if you will, because now they're using these onion addresses and these hidden services to communicate. And this is where a lot of your black market is, essentially, and some, not just black market stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of freedom-loving forums and all these different things, government conspiracy sites, but there's also really dark stuff like assassination markets where you hire hitmen and things. So these things are being done within this particular area of Tor under these things called .onion addresses. So it's important for us that do cyber threat intel for a company, company XYZ.com, that we are aware, is there anything being posted on forums in this dark web? Is there any leak sites that are leaking anything about my company? Maybe they broke in, hacked it, stole data, and they're now selling it on the dark web or on dark market. And you'll see that in the news sometimes. They'll say, hey, such and such company was breached, they didn't pay the ransomware, and they're now selling all the data on the dark web. So it would behoove you as a cyber threat intel person to go ahead and get in here and start looking for that information to see if there's anything that kicks up with your company's name. At a very basic level, you can just do some search engines, okay? Now, at a more deeper level, you can watch my video about sock puppets, but you would create essentially sock puppet accounts and create personas that you would get onto these darknet forums, gain the trust of some of these people, and hopefully get some information about this particular hack group maybe that you want to get information about. It goes way deep there. We're not going to get into that today. This is very basic, just hitting up the search engines that check everything to do with .onion addresses. And one of the more popular ones is Mia. That's the one I use the most. It seems to be most reliable. But there's quite a few of them listed here. So this particular guy made this OnionSearch, which is pretty awesome. And it's just a Python 3 script that will scrape URLs for different onions addresses. But the thing is, you got to make sure you understand is that in order for it to do any of this and reach out to it and work, you essentially have to have Tor installed on the machine itself, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go over that today and show you how to use this to get information from the dark web. So the best way, in my opinion, would be to use the GitHub installation. But before we do that, what we want to do is we want to make sure, and I'm using Ubuntu here, we want to make sure that we actually installed Tor so that it's able to be run. So the first thing I would do in this particular case is I would go ahead and install Tor. So I'll say sudo apt install Tor. I don't believe I've installed it on here, so I think we're pretty good to go. And looks like, you'll see that. It looks like our updater is going on, so let me go ahead and close out of that. So sometimes when you get that error, it's because the process of the software updater for Ubuntu has locked it. And yeah, anyways, let's try it again. Oh, Lord. All right, so it takes a bit to do this. So let me go ahead and pause the video and get rid of this because obviously this is going to be a problem. All right, I went ahead and took care of that. I'll show you basically what I did in case you do run into the same issue with Ubuntu, which I do commonly run into. Let me scroll up here real quick. So basically it told me that the unattended manager here is locked with this process ID 4902. So what you would do in that situation is you would do sudo and then you would do a kill tac9. When I say tac, I mean dash, and then whatever the name of the process is. So basically, I'm killing the process that's stopping me from doing this. And then I went ahead and ran the sudo apt install Tor. It will then ask you, do you want to continue? You will hit Y for yes, and it will go ahead and finish it out. Now, to verify if it's running or not, you say service. Whoops. You say service. If I can type here today, it'd be nice. Say service Tor status. And we can see here it's active. And again, if you wanted to not have it active, obviously you would then do a service Tor stop. And that would end it. All right, very good, very good. Let me quit out of that. Come on now. There we go. All right, so in this particular case, we do have it running. And so Tor is up and running. Now this will be, by default, the port will be 9050. So in order to use OnionSearch, we'll have to kind of tack that as a process for it, right? So I wanted to make sure you guys had this. I'm going to give you guys this. If you do run into it again, I wanted to find a site that's good for you guys to get information about this kill process because some may not be as familiar with Linux. So I wanted to, I'll see if I can remember to put this into the show notes. But this is what you would do if you did run into that issue again, okay? All right, let me go back over here. And what we want to do is we want to install OnionSearch. Now this does use Python 3, so make sure you're using the latest Python. And also verify that you've installed pip as well. Pip is something that is used by Python so it can download different modules and such, and download the actual and install the program here. And you can see right there that you can install OnionSearch via that as well. I tend to like to put everything in a folder and then just git clone everything, and that's how I like to do things. But this basically is using GitHub, and if you do a git clone of this site, it will then pretty much give you all of this. It will download all of this right here, and then from there you can go ahead and do the setup and install. So we're going to go ahead and do that from this site. We'll go ahead and git clone, and we'll add a sudo at the beginning of it here because I am using a non-privileged account for this. So we'll say sudo and git clone. All right, so in this case, we see that git is not installed. So then we'll go ahead and do a sudo apt install and git. And we'll say yes to continue. And while it's doing that, I'm tired of those noises that keep popping up in my command prompt. So we come over here to the profile and turn off that terminal bell. Thing drives me nuts. So basically, this is the best way that I would say that a lot of these different OSINT and cyber threat intel packages and software and tools that people use typically are done this way. Usually you'll do a git clone of their site, and then from there you'll say cd into their folder and then install it from there. All right, so let's go ahead. Now that we have it installed, we're going to go ahead and do a sudo git clone. I'm going to do it inside my OSINT folder, and we're going to go ahead and see that it cloned it into a folder called OnionSearch. You can see right there. So if we do an ls, you can see we have a folder called OnionSearch. So I'm going to go ahead and cd over to it, and that's what we call tab search. If you're not familiar with Linux, start typing in, and it is case sensitive, by the way. So start typing in the term and hit tab, and it will complete it for you. All right, so now we're in the OnionSearch. We'll do an ls, verify that got everything there. And we can see there's a setup.py, which the extension for Python script. And I'm guessing we'll do a Python 3 install of that. So let's see here. Yep. So the next thing you'll do is Python 3 setup py install, and this one should install with no issues, hopefully. I'm going to do my sudo on that again. And that will install, hopefully, our OnionSearch, and it's going to be utilized on a lot of different search engines, which is pretty sweet. All right, so from here, I should, because I believe it actually put it in path, if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to just type in OnionSearch, and then let's say attack H. When I say tack, I mean dash, and it should give me a help file for OnionSearch. So I don't have to do Python 3, OnionSearch, or anything like that. So we're good to go. So this is the ones we're going to be curious about here is the proxy, right? Because we're going to have to run our searches through a proxy, in this case being Tor. And by default, it's actually 9050 for Tor. But here they say the default they got is 9150. We'll change that to 9050, and we'll do it local host because that's what we're running here on our machine. And you can limit it by what engines you want it to search. If you just wanted to search for on a MIA, or if you want to have it search just on Torch, or if you want to exclude a couple but have every other one there. You can also rename whatever the actual output would be using this tac output right here, and it will output it into a CSV type format file that you can open up then in an Excel document. All right, so you can see here there's a lot of different search engines. So to use it, if you look at the page, you'll notice here there are a few different things. If I wanted to search for the word computer across all of these dark web engines, we'll say dark web engines, I would do an OnionSearch and then in parentheses, or I'm sorry, in quotations, put the term. But also what they're omitting here is to run it through Tor. So we're going to do the -- proxy 127.0.0.1, that sort of thing. So in the news lately, there is a pretty well-known ransomware group called Comptia. So let's pretend, we'll set up our scenario here. Let's pretend you're cyber threat intel and you're working at your company, and your company wants to know, is there anything from the Comptia website, their blog page, where they're posting, these guys typically will post leaked data for people that don't pay ransoms and such, and a lot of times they'll put it right out there free freely just to look at, or as downloadable links. So your boss has tasked you with saying, listen, we need you to search for anything related to Conti because we see it in the news. They're a big ransomware group that's doing a lot of different things in our industry. So can you find me anything at all about Conti? Can you find maybe the blog where they post their stuff? Because sometimes you'll be reading maybe through your Twitter feeds and you'll see people popping in there saying, well, here's the latest. Today we saw on the Conti blog, it dumped all this information. And they don't really tell you how they get there and how they find it, because it is a little difficult for those that aren't really familiar with how to do it, how to find these particular places. But a lot of times these search engines may pull out like a ransomware group wiki or something like that. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll say OnionSearch, and we're going to search specifically for Conti, and we'll do the TAC proxy, which will use our 127.0.0.1. Don't forget, I've got Tor running, so that's why I can do this. And then we'll do a, I can't remember if you have to do a colon. Let's see here. Yep. So we'll do a colon 9050, like that. And then in quotations, I'll just say Conti. All right. Hit enter and let it do its thing. Let's see what we got here. Start of this process unit. Console scripts. All right, let me verify what this is. Let me pause real quick. Sorry. So, yeah, it looks like pretty strange stuff. So I did a little research here. I'm actually a little bit out of the camera there. And I don't know why it didn't start with any any CPU count here, any MP units. It says it does it by default, but apparently it does not, because that's what the error told me. It says here that number of processes must be at least one. So I said, all right, well, how about one is good, two is better, right? So I popped in two, and yeah, sure enough, it worked. Now you'll notice this is pretty common here, that you'll maybe get some errors on some of the different search engines, and that's where you can kind of exclude. Like if you notice this happens all the time, that these particular search engines do not end up displaying all the results you want it to, you can get rid of those and exclude those from there. But as you go down through, you'll see that it did go through the different search engines, and it took a while. It took like 6 minutes. And when it did finish, it gave me links per engine that are listed here for that term, and then it output it to a file here called output Conti blah, 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 blah. Here you can do the TAC output and then change the name to something better if you want. So as we look down through these, we can see there's quite a few different link sites here. Now this one looks interesting, ransomware group sites. And here you'll see the typical .onion address associated with Tor. And in this case here, in order to see this, we would need to go ahead and get the Tor browser installed to be able to do that. So let's do that real quick. Open up a new window. And let's go grab the Tor browser. So to do that in Ubuntu, I'm just using Ubuntu as an example. I looked this one up here. You want the Tor Browser Launcher, and it's going to be in this PPA, what they call a PPA repository. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, pop that bad boy in here. And there we go. Press enter to add. Yes. Awesome. Now, typically what I'll do after this is do an apt update just to verify that it has everything in there. So give it a second here, and then from there we'll install the actual browser itself. So we'll say sudo apt update. I always do that after I install something. It's habit. All right. So now we want to go ahead. Oh, actually, I told you to do it here. So very cool. So now we want to install the browser itself. So we'll go ahead and copy that, pop it over here. All right, looks like our browser is there, and we already have it, I guess, on this Ubuntu one. I didn't remember putting it on there, but I guess we did. So we can go ahead and look for it. We'll come here, and we'll look for the Tor browser. So I'll just say Tor. Here you'll see Tor Browser Launcher and Tor Browser. I'll click that to open up the Tor browser. And it's going to download it and install it. Now, it'll, by default, I think from the get-go, it will not connect to Tor. You'll actually have to tell it to connect to Tor. And then from there, you'll do your browsing. So the Tor browser is good to use because, again, they keep a lot more privacy-oriented things in there, and trying to have as little browser leaks as possible. So it's always recommended that if you're going to browse Tor, you either use Tails as a VM and then use the Tor browser from there, or you install the Tor browser and use it from there. So in this case, it's always good to also, if you're familiar with PGP, to just verify that the Tor version that you got, if you go to the site and download it, is the actual real one as well, because people do try to mess with that. All right, let's go ahead and connect to Tor. Even though we are connected in the background, we're going to connect the browser to it. The first thing we'll do is we'll do a Tor check just to make sure that we are connected to Tor. So to do that, I'll just type up here, I'll just say check Tor, and usually the first link is what we'll have. So let me wait on that, and this just basically is just a check that the Tor browser does to verify you are indeed using Tor, and we can see there we are. So now we can actually browse to .onion sites. So we'll come back here to our other terminal. We don't need this one anymore. Let's close this. And we can see some of the links here. Now this particular one is of interest to me because it's a ransomware group site, kind of like that. So I'm going to go copy that and pop it in here. And you'll notice that some of these links that they'll give you may not actually be working or may not be up, but that's just the way it is. All right, very cool. Let me go ahead and bring these up here a little bit. Awesome. So now we're doing pretty well with our research. So because the boss told us we want to find out what's going on the Comptia blog. Well, the Comptia blog is right here. And they got a version 3, so they're all up to date. So we'll click on open. It will now open the Comptia blog, which will have any data leaks that they've dumped out there or any type of things to download or just basically anything they want to say and talk about from their perspective. While that's loading, you can go down through here and you can see there's all the big boys, right? The Black Matter. There's another one here, Lockbit. It's pretty hot in the news today. Prometheus, Ragnarok. So all kinds of different things are listed up here. This one here is offline sites, kind of interesting there. But the version 3 is the one that they're using now for onion links. It's just longer. All right, so we are now on the Comptia blog. If you're a client who declined the deal and did not find your data on Cartel's website or did not find valuable files, this does not mean that we forgot about you. It only means that data was sold and only therefore it did not publish in free access. It's funny reading some of these blogs where they're like, yeah, you were stupid and didn't pay the ransom. I'm like, what? Well, you telling me? So it looks like here, I don't know, I'm just picking ones at random. If you work for Duke Manufacturing, I apologize, but, oh, actually, it's not fully published, so we don't want to see that. I just want to take a look here. Okay, so it looks like this one is published. World Electronics, sounds cool. Let's read that. So then you'll bring it up here, and let's see, address, World, okay, so information on that, very cool. So I suppose, can we look at the actual dumps on this one here? Because a lot of these sites may have it pretty easy on looking at the actual information. Let's just grab one here at random, see what happens. And it does not seem to be clicking for me. I don't know why. All right, either way. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe they have a lot of people on it. So let's just grab a different one. Let's, I don't know, let's go with Lockbit, I guess. They're pretty popular right now. We'll grab that and see what they've got on there. See what they got on display. I don't know why this is locking up on me. But yeah, any groups that they're going to want you to look for typically are going to be right here more than likely on this blog. So you would then bookmark this on your browser so that you can come back to it at any time and see what the latest updates are on their blog. So if you ever see anything saying, yeah, well, this particular, ransomware group went ahead and popped somebody and now they're posting everything on their site, this is a good way to do it. So it seems to be a lot of lag here going on today. Probably my computer on my end, but either way. I was going to show you some different information here, but they don't, it's not working very well for me, apparently. When I click on things, let's try, nope, can't do that either. All right, very good. So I don't know why it's bugging out on me. 5 business days. Yep, nothing to click on. All right, no big deal. All right, look at that. Lockbit finally loaded. So these are these are timers. Basically, they have 6 days to pay the ransom, or they're going to go ahead and publish everything here on their blog. So here's an example of published files, I guess. Let's go look here. So encrypted files are published. Typically, they'll be listed here, but again, my data or internet or something is bugging out here. But typically, you'll see it published listed here on these blogs. But you can do basically any of these particular ransomware sites just to kind of see what their modus operandi is, to be able to see if they actually publish it there on the actual site itself. But it's probably for the best that I don't click on things and show it on the screen here. So no big deal. Oh, look at that. T-Mobile leak. Interesting. But anyways, oh, here we go. So this is the new RockU. I definitely want that. Gonna be good stuff. So anyways, this is where you would actually get the information, and likely it would work if you just click on the site and view it. But for some reason, it's tripping out on me. Let's see if there's a mirror here I can go to. Maybe it's a little bit better. Oh, look at that. So they're starting to download stuff. There we go. So they're starting to publish some different things. Look here, we got some sales targets. So basically, they've dumped all this data here so far, or are in the process of dumping all that data. So I guess it must be right inside of the, let's see. Is it down a little further? Oh, maybe I didn't wait for it to load. Okay, there we go. So these are published. There we go. And we can see here that if we wanted to, we can go ahead and download these XLSX file. You can see on the bottom, the URL leads to that. So this is where you would find out, like, for instance, if it's your company, you can find out, download the data. And that becomes a little bit of a sticking point morality-wise for some people. And that's fine. If you have an issue with that, that's understandable. But a lot of people will come across and say, well, it is public here, and we didn't post it. And some people would say it's actually doing your job if you have a third party you implement that is here, and it's potentially has client data that you have for your company. It's kind of your job to view and see what kind of data is actually being published out there publicly. So I mean, it's up to you how you feel about it. I'm not going to lecture you on the morality of it or anything, but I just want to show you this OnionSearch thing here, how good that you can use it for different things like this. Like if you look back here, you'll see there's other things that are related to Comptia, and there's other articles, and this is just from EMEA. But as you go down further, you'll see there's some Onionland ones and all that other stuff here. And you can go to each one of these individually and view them once you're in your Tor browser here to be able to see anything that's related. So you would go down through and search for your company specifically and see if there's any leaks for it here, and then view those blogs and see, is it indeed information about us? Is it data leaks? Should I know about it? Should I open it? Should I download it? That will be up to you and your legal department at your company. So don't say that I told you to do it. Use your legal department for any of that kind of stuff. But as a cyber threat intel person, this would be something you would definitely want to use. Is this particular OnionSearch is a good way to do more surface level stuff. When you get deeper into it and you start really wanting to develop accounts on there to try to get into the underbelly, if you will, and try to get information, that's when you would create things like sock puppets. And I have a video for that if you want to check it out at my YouTube. And speaking of that, go ahead and subscribe if you guys enjoy the content. And I'll be putting out some more stuff video-wise, but I'm also going to put out some article papers, documents-wise, because I noticed that got a lot of good play. Last time I just posted a walkthrough with my pop, another server drop series. So I'll probably do some more of that as well. And I'm also going to be planning on starting maybe either a live stream, like maybe either a Twitch or a YouTube. And that way you can interact and ask questions if you'd like, or just pop in and say, hey, what's up? And we'll still keep it kind of more OSINT focused or more cyber threat intel focused. But there's also going to be some red team kind of stuff in there that I do as well. So check out the videos on my YouTube, and also check out shikaragadai.com for all your shikaragadai hacking and good stuff kind of things. And until next time, peace out, players.